In this section, we're going to look at placing a special ditch using alignment and profiles. So we're going to start out by opening the civil geometry file. So that's where we're going to place our ditch. And we're going to close out any profile window that's in there currently. And so where we have just view 1, we're going to kind of zoom out a little bit where we can see we're going to go along Route 50 for part of this and Ramp 2 for part of it. So the first thing we need to do is set up a feature definition. So I'm going to go to the pull down up there for feature definitions, and we'll go to Design, Design Standards, Drainage, and we'll kind of scroll down there and we'll look for the Special Ditch Right. And then we're going to hit the light bulb to the left of that to activate it. It means anything we draw or copy should take on that feature definition. Then we're going to go to the horizontal geometry tools, and we're going to go down to that second to last row, the second tool in, which is create a complex element by PI. And we're going to come in here and we're going to tell it that we want it to place a radius of 200 every time that we create a PI. Everything else in there can pretty much stay the same. The name, we're just going to name it Special Ditch. So it doesn't have to have the right at the end. You can take that off if you want. So it will be named Special Ditch. We also then need to go down to the bottom and we're going to turn on Civil AccuDraw, because we're going to create this special ditch off of Route 50 and Ramp 2. So we're going to have to tell it how to do that. So the way we do is we tab down into the offset field and we hit the letter O. Hit the letter O, it asks for the reference element, which is going to be the Route 50 center line first. And as soon as you click on Route 50, now you can see the stationing will update as I move. For this first station, I'm going to type in 445 plus 30.94 and hit enter. And that will lock it in. And you can move the mouse around a little bit and it'll lock it into that beginning station. Our offset's 120, so we'll enter that in and accept it. And once we do that, we are now free to type in the next station, 448 plus 70, and enter that. Move the mouse around, and our offset for this one is going to be also 120. So we type that in, move the mouse around after we hit enter, and accept it. Now we've got a 200-foot radius starting to draw in there. So our next station, 449 plus 50, and we'll enter that, move the mouse around. Our offset will be 150, enter that, move the mouse around, and then we will left click to accept that 150. Okay. The next station that we're going to plug in is going to be off of Ramp 2. So we need to tab down into that offset field again and hit the letter O. Once we hit O, then we got to go pick the Ramp 2 center line. And now everything that we type in will be based off of Ramp 2. So we're going to put it at 1 plus 0, 0 and enter, and then we'll move our mouse around. And then for the offset, we're 90 foot to the right, so we'll type in 90 and enter. And then we'll left click to start that. Okay, the next location, 5 plus 0, 0, enter. Move the mouse around, and then we'll do 70 foot to the right and enter. And then we'll left click to accept that point. Our next spot, we want to make sure not to put anything in the radius. We'll make sure that stays at 200. Make sure you're in the station field and type in 10 plus 0, 0, enter. Move the mouse around, and then we are 100 foot away there. So type in 100, enter, and left click. Then when we're done with that, we can right click, and we've got our chain in there that represents our ditch bottom. We can take a look at the profile of that. We're going to go down and open up window 8 and left click inside of window 8. We should have just existing ground in there. It should say special ditch at the top. And we're going to place in a straight line profile through here. So we're going to use the under the vertical geometry tools on the left, we're going to use the profile line between points. And we're going to come back into that view number 8. And you can kind of see in the profile dialog, we don't really need to change anything except for maybe typing a name in here. So we're going to type in a name of special ditch profile or proposed. Now if you have spaces in there, this won't export out to the GEOPAK, so that name may or may not work for you. Down in the profile, we're going to type in 0 plus 0, 0 and enter. Move the mouse around. Our Z elevation is going to be 688, so we'll enter on that. And then our end station out there is going to be at 15 plus 75.75, and we'll enter that. We'll move the mouse around, and then we'll have 704 for our Z elevation. Enter that, move the mouse around, and then left click. And that will draw a profile in there for us. Now we need to make it active, so we're going to move over, hit F4 and hover over it. Select it and get the heads up and get the second tool in there to make that active. Okay, so now we have a alignment with a profile. So let's go open up the corridors file. So we're going to go into File, Open, and we're going to open the corridors drawing. Okay. So that's working on opening that file. We're going to check in then the civil geometry file. Okay, once that file opens, you should see our corridors and everything in both windows, 2D and 3D. Okay, we're going to highlight the view 1, make sure it's active. And you can't see the profile line that we drew out there. Even though civil geometry is attached, you can't see it. And the reason why you can't see it is because that level is not turned on. So we need to go turn on Scratch 5 for that view 1. Once you turn on Scratch 5, you should now be able to see your alignment. You need to do the same thing in the 3D view if you want to be able to see it over there. You can go in and highlight the view 2 and then get the level display and pick on your civil geometry and go turn on Scratch 5. And it is underneath everything currently, but later on we will be able to see that. Okay, so we're going to go back to view 1 now, and we're going to left click on the Route 50 corridor grip, get the hammer tool, and we're going to go in and add a point control. So we're having a point control that's going to control where that ditch is located, where it sees it. So we're going to lock to the start of Route 50, and our stop station we're going to put at 451 plus 40.67. Okay, and we'll go out on the screen and accept those. And then our control description, we're going to have to change that. We'll do a draw to special ditch alignment. So we'll accept that on the screen. And we're going to have both for our mode. So we'll accept that. And then for our control type, instead of a corridor, we're going to do linear geometry. And the point that we're going to control, we're going to have to scroll down here a little bit. There should be a right ditch 4 slope 1B. That's the one that we're going to control. Okay, now the plan element wants to know, so we're going to have to come out here on the left and accept those things until we get to the locate plan or profile element. So then we're going to pick that ditch line that we drew out there, the alignment, and we're going to let it use the active profile, and we're going to turn on that use secondary alignment. So out there on the screen, it's going to draw a secondary alignment which kind of controls how that alignment is drawn out there. And we're going to accept all the way through that, the rest of the prompts. and it'll go out there and create a ditch for us in that location, as you can kind of see. Okay, so now in the 3D window you can see it over there. Okay, so I'm going to go over here in the 3D window and rotate it around a little bit. So you can kind of see that ditch a little bit better. You see that line underneath of there just a little bit there. You can see it showing up now that we turned it on in the level display. So we're going to go back into view 1 then, and we've got to do the same thing to ramp 2. We've got to add that in as a point control. So we're going to find ramp 2 corridor. We'll go to the hammer tool, the point controls, and in here we're going to lock to start still. We'll just leave that the way it is, and then for the stop station we'll do 16 plus 55 31, and then that's basically the end of the whole entire corridor. And so we'll accept those, and then the control description we can leave that the same, and then we can accept that, and both we're controlling, and linear geometry we're controlling. Now the point that we're going to control for this one is pretty much going to be the same. It's that right ditch 4 slope 1B. So we're going to still grab that one from the list, and we'll come out and accept it. And then it says what plan element again, so we're going to pick on that yellow alignment for our ditch, and we'll use it as a secondary alignment and just accept the rest of the way through, and it will go out and create the ditch for ramp 2. Okay, so those are put in there. That ditch is looking pretty good. A lot of times what we want to do is want to go out and double check and make sure that the point control is stationed correctly. So we'll get the bucket tool, and we'll come in here and we'll look at this up here at the top right now is the templates where they go to. The point controls, if you click on those you can see that special ditch that's in there, and it kept that stationing that we had put in there. You always want to check that just to make sure that it does go in correctly. Okay, we'll do the same thing for Route 50. We'll take a look at its point control and make sure that its stationing is in there the way that we placed it. And it is, so we're good with that one. So our special ditch is in there exactly where we want it to go. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the grip corridor for Route 50, and we're going to take a look at the cross section for that. So we're going to do it in view 8, and we'll just left click in view 8 and get that to show up. And what you'll see is in that view that magenta dot represents the point control that's controlling that. And we're going to put a dimension in here. So I'm going to right click and hold and do place dimension, and we're just going to dimension that slope out there to see what it looks like at the different locations. So as we go down the road you'll see that that slope changes to meet that point control that we placed out there. Now this next section is holding a slope, so as you can see that slope varies as it goes out, but if you want that slope to maintain say a 25%, what we would need to do is go into the template drop for Route 50. So let's go modify that template drop, which is the second tool in the heads-up display for your template drop. And we're going to go out here to that top point up there, the right ditch back slope 1T. We're going to double click on that, and we're going to open up the point properties dialog box for it. Okay, down here right now it's sitting at some percentage, and we want to change that to be 25%. So we just have to make sure we get 25% in there and apply that. And we can close out of that one. Then the next thing we want to look at is down here at the bottom of the ditch, the right ditch 4 slope 1B. That's the one we're controlling with point controls. And we want to set that at a negative 25% for the slope. And we'll apply that one. Okay, so we're kind of locking those in. We're telling it needs to be at 25%. And now we don't want this constraint 2 to be horizontal. We're going to change it to a vertical, to where we can control this vertical. And all we're going to do is change that to vertical and hit apply. And then we can close out of that dialog box. Okay, so now we don't have a horizontal constraint. We've got a slope and a vertical. So we'll say OK to that. And that's going to go out and recrank on the corridors and all that. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing for this ramp 2. We're going to find the drops for that one. So we're going to modify that ditch, that right ditch 4 slope B1 for this template. We'll make it 25, negative 25. And apply that. And we'll change it to vertical there and apply that. And then that far right ditch back slope 1T, we're going to make it 25% as well. And apply that. And say OK to that one. Okay, now this one had 2 different templates placed in there, so we got to modify that first template as well. So we'll grab it and modify the template drop for it. And it's the same way. We've got to go change those slopes, negative 25% and vertical for the 4 slope 1B point, and then for that right ditch back slope 1T, we need to change it to 25% as well. So same thing on this template, and we'll say OK to that. Alright, so now we've modified our templates to be able to handle this. And you can see it hasn't really updated or changed anything in that right window. What we need to do is go modify the point controls now. So on Route 50, we're going to go to the bucket tool, which is underneath a hammer. And we're going to go in here and look at those point controls. So we've got that ditch point control right there, and we need to change that from both to where it only controls the vertical. Okay, so we switch that to controlling just vertical and not both. It'll go recrank the corridor, and then in the cross-section view you'll notice that it has moved that point out to where it holds that 25% slope. So the elevation is being controlled, but not the horizontal. Okay, and you would need to do that to the ramp 2 as well, ramp 2 corridor. So we can look at the cross section of ramp 2. So that's what we're doing here now. We're going in and we've opened up ramp 2 corridor. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to right click and hold and put a temporary dimension for that slope over there, so you can see that it hasn't been modified yet. We haven't changed the point control yet. So we're going to go back into that left window then and get the hammer and the bucket tool, or the corridor objects tool for ramp 2, and we'll go to the point control. And that last one in there is that one dealing with the ditch, and so we're going to highlight it and change it to vertical only is what we'll be controlling. And you don't have to do that per template. That's just going to do it for the whole entire corridor. So as you can see out in the window now, it's got the 25% slope. And that's how you control that.